بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا، وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. أسأل الله تبارك وتعالى أن يجعل نياتنا خالصة لوجهه الكريم. I start with the name of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. I praise Allah. I ask Allah to send countless blessings and salutations on Sayyiduna Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, his family, his companions, and all of those who follow them in excellence until the day of judgment. And I ask Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala to make this matter of striving to earn closeness to Him Subhanahu wa Ta'ala and His reward and His good pleasure easy for us, because Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala is the one who makes the difficult things easy whenever He willed. So we ask Allah to make our matters easy. And I ask Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala to grant us the sincere intention. So I want to greet all of you with Assalamu alaikum, and I want to return the greeting for all of you, wa alaikum salam. And I appreciate all of your diligence. You are manifesting in your life and in your example the beautiful line of Sayyiduna al-Imam Abdullah bin Alawi al-Haddad in his Diwan, Jahid to Shahid. You struggle and you will witness. You will reach higher levels, right? Through al-Mujahada, you will reach al-Mushahada. Through struggling, you will witness. And I ask all of you to please share the video. Share it after making the intention to spread beneficial knowledge. Make sure you make the intention. Don't just do actions. Do actions with noble intentions, right? The ulama, they mention, whoever opens for themselves one door of a good intention, Allah will open for them 70 doors of at-tawfiq. What is tawfiq? It is Allah creating in the servant the ability to obey Him. So you do one good intention, just one. I intend to spread beneficial knowledge. As a result of that intention, Allah will open to you 70 doors of tawfiq. And I say to you, we at Masjid Muhammad, may Allah bless our master Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we have seen the reality of this saying, that if you make one sincere intention, that Allah will open for you 70 doors of tawfiq, of divine success, creating in you the ability to obey. Over and over and over again, we have seen this reality. So I remind you and I encourage you and I advise you, make noble intentions before you do anything. So before you share, make the noble intention to spread beneficial knowledge. Make the noble intention to be a source of guidance for others. And then make the intention of fulfilling the Quran by making the deen of Islam manifest over everything else. And then hit the share button. And inshallah, you will be counted among those who spread knowledge, who fought in the path of Allah. Because we're in the time of jihadul bayan, the jihad of the tongue, the struggle with the tongue to spread knowledge. And you will be counted among al-mujahidun, those who struggled in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they have high ranks. Inshallah, I think by now, most of you should have your book, Reliance of the Traveler, Umdatus Salik. So I ask our reader to get your book because we're going to start to use it today, inshallah. So all of you should have it by now, or if you didn't have it, you should get it because I'm going to be using it every single day. In addition to what we are doing, because my intention, inshallah, is that over time, you're going to have a comprehensive understanding of the deen. We don't want people who know, but don't know why they know and can't convey what they know. So I want to give you all of the tools to help you move forward. I don't just want you to be people Subhanallah, Abu Muwadda, ماذا بك يا سيدي? What's going on? You should have known these numbers. You've been in class for a long time. 345, 345, 3 is a code. So that's how we know you're not a part of us. I'm joking. You are a spy. Now I'm messing with you. You can't get in the building. 3453 is 3 is an indication to Hadith Jibreel, in which the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was questioned by Sayyid Jibreel about 3 main points. Al-Iman, Al-Islam, Al-Iman, and Al-Ihsan, which represents fiqh, aqidah, and tasawwuf, the primary sciences of Islam. 4 represents the book Ihya Ulumuddin from Sayyidina al-Imam al-Ghazali, who divided his book into 4 quarters. The quarter of divine worship, al-ibadat, the quarter of customary practices, al-adat, the quarter of ruinous characteristics, al-muhlikat, and the quarter of saving characteristics, al-munjiyat. 5 represents the path of the people of the right, mentioned by Sayyidina al-Imam Abdullah bin Alawi Haddad, and he said the path of As-Sada al-Ba'alawi, which is that path of the middle way of the common people, is 5 things: al-ilm, knowledge; al-amal, practice; al-ikhlas, sincerity; al-wara', scrupulousness; al-khawf min Allah ta'ala, in fear of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. And the last 3 is the path that we all need to be traveling, which are objectives that we know to embody. They call it al-maqasid al-thalatha, 3 objectives: al-ilm, al-amal, and al-da'wah. Learning, knowledge, practicing that knowledge, and calling people to Allah. So there you have it. 3453. If you should not remember this code, we're going to ban you from the class. Because when you get into the building, don't you got to put in your code? So put the code. And this way, it's a constant reminder. Right? Fil i'ada ifada. The more you repeat a thing, you'll benefit. So no one's going to forget how to practice the deen if they remember that code. 3453, simple. You know what you got to do. You got to have the proper Islamic practice, the proper belief, and the proper spiritual practice. There's relationships. You got a relationship with you and your Lord. You got a relationship with you and the people. You got a relationship between you and yourself. There are certain things you need to keep in practice. You need knowledge. You need to practice. You need to be sincere to Allah. You need to be careful from doubtful things. And you need to fear Allah. And then, to make it simple, summarize all that. You need to learn. You need to practice. And you got to convey it to others. That's your life. That's all of the deen. In those 4 numbers and those what they indicate, your whole religion is right there. You don't need nothing else. If you ever forget, just remember the code and you get yourself back to working. Very easy. Now, so, inshallah, with that being said, yesterday, someone had homework. I notice every time there is homework, the next day people don't come to class. What's up with that? It's very confusing. As soon as it's going to be a test. Oh, I'm sick, right? So yesterday, there was the mentioning of the statement, Allah, or the day before, there was the mention of the statement, Allahu mawjudun bila makan, right? I'll make it so all of you can say it. Allahu mawjudun bila makan, right? Let me see if I can put this in Arabic for you. I don't type fast, so be patient with me. Allah mawjudun what? Always a problem. I'm sorry. All right. Let me put that up. So Allah mawjudun bila makan. Right? Allahu mawjudun bila makan. Which means Allah exists without a place. Right? Someone put that, and 2 people put it. And then we asked to give some scholars from the 5th century back to the time of the Prophet who mentioned that statement and in which book. So we mentioned one case. So quickly tell me, we mentioned one book. Which book did we mention, and what scholar mentioned in what book, and who did he quote from that said Allah exists without a place? That's a question. Feel free for everyone to answer. So we mentioned this yesterday. We mentioned a book. We mentioned a scholar. Okay, I'm going to hold you with that, Abu Asiya, Yahya. Okay, Tayyib. I can't see your whole thing because I'm not on Facebook. Let me see something. All right, but what scholar we mentioned yesterday? So we mentioned a book, we mentioned a scholar. Which book? Who's the scholar? Can someone tell me? No, not okay. Julie. Imam Abu Mansur al-Baghdadi. Fahim li. Al-Farqu Bayn al-Firaq. Good. That's the name of the book. What edition did we mention? From which company? What edition? Darul Ma'rifa. Naam. Okay. Naam. Okay. So the other statement. So let's give the book. So you did good. Al-Hafidh al-Bayhaqi in his book, Abu Yahya, on page 400. Which edition? How do I know? If I go to page 400, I don't see what you said. So that doesn't help me any. Which book? Which edition? I'm going to show you why that's important. Which edition, Sidi? Imam Fahim, Imam Bumbab, La Adri. You don't know. Abu Asiya, you don't know either. Let me explain something to you, both of you, because y'all teachers. He said the latest edition, the Camden edition. You teachers, when you're out there debating, unfortunately, I ask you not to debate, explain and teach. But some people are debating. If you can't provide evidences, your debating is weak, even if you're truthful. Learn to be precise as possible within your ability. So whenever you quote, always be able to know exactly where you're quoting from. So no one accuses you of fabricating, right? So get in that habit. Whenever you quote, know the book you're quoting from, know the edition you're quoting from, learn about how narrations reach us, right? Don't just parrot what your teacher said. Your teachers, they got it from somewhere. Where did they get it from? We are up against people who will always fabricate. So you need to be as precise as possible, just as a benefit. You are right in what you're saying. But if you cannot show it, then when they say, oh, that's not true, and you can't produce it, your proof, even though it's true, won't be weighty. So that's why you're going to have to start really being more precise in your narrations. Just train yourself to do it. You're not going to do it for everything. Maybe you don't have the ability, but you want to get the ability because you're working in da'wah. That's just my advice for all of us, because we're faced with people who pervert in the religion, who lie on scholars, who pervert books. So you got to know this stuff. It's very important. And that's just part of our da'wah work. You know, that last number 3, al-ilm wal-amal wa da'wah, part of a da'wah is a tahqiq, is to be precise and accurate fin naql, in your narrations, right? In your transmission, to be precise. Tayyib, but great job. I appreciate it, right? May Allah reward both of you and those who worked on it. So let's go to the first one. We mentioned the book Al-Farqu Bayn al-Firaq by the great Imam Abu Mansur al-Baghdadi. And we mentioned this yesterday, published by Darul Ma'rifah, right? And it's on page 293. Excuse me, 292, where he mentioned وَأَجْمَعُوا عَلَى أَنَّهُ لَا يَهْوِهِ مَكَانٍ, that Ahl Sunnah, they have consensus that Allah is not contained in a place. وَلَا يَجْرِي عَلَيْهِ زَمَانٍ, and Allah is not conditioned to time. Darul Ma'rifah. The second edition, published in 1997, 1417. Right? Beirut, Lebanon. There's the book. With the ta'liq of Sheikh Ibrahim Ramadan, Darul Fatwa, Beirut. Right? So here's the book. Darul Ma'rifah is a very reliable company, one of the best that are still left. So I want you to, so here he mentioned that, he said that's a consensus of Ahl Sunnah, and then he mentioned the statement of Sayyidina Ali, وَقَدْ قَالَ أَمِيرُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ Ali radiyallahu anhu, إن الله تعالى خلق العرش إظهارا لقدرته لا مكانا لذاته. Verily Allah created the throne as an indication of his power, not as a place for himself. وقال أيضا, and he also said, قد كان ولا مكان وهو الآن على ما عليه كان. He existed, meaning Allah, in Al-Azal, eternally, without a beginning. ولا مكان, and there was no place. وهو الآن على ما عليه كان, and he is now as he has always been, without a place. Can we read? Go to your Reliance of the Traveler. Our readers with us. Go to page 1021 in the biographical notes, X9. You got it? You got your book, Reliance?
Yes, sir.
So X9, page 1021 in the book Reliance of the Traveler. Let's read about the author of this book, Al-Farqu Bayn al-Firaq. Go ahead.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wa salatu wa salam wa la Rasulillah. The author, may Allah Ta'ala have mercy on him, said, you just want me to read the entire page?
No, just X9.
Oh,
the biography section, X9, because we're talking about that scholar.
Excuse me. Abdul Qahir al-Baghdadi is Abdul Qadir ibn Tahir ibn Muhammad. Qahir, apologize. Ibn Tahir ibn Muhammad ibn Abdullah al-Baghdadi, a Shafi scholar, Imam and fundamentals of Islam, Usul, and heresiologist who was born and raised in Baghdad, later moving to Nasapur. He was a teacher who used to lecture in 17 subjects to students and was the author of Usuluddin, the fundamentals of the religion, and Al-Farq Bayn al-Firaq, the distinction between heretical sects, both major works of the beliefs of Ahl Sunnah. He died in Ashfara in 429, 1037, and Tabaqat al-Shafiyah al-Kubra.
Yes, okay. So the author, the translator, Sheikh Noor, he extracted this biography section about Abdul Qahir al-Baghdadi, who is the author of this book, Al-Farqu Bayn al-Firaq, from the book Tabaqat al-Shafiyyat al-Kubra, which was written by the great scholar Al-Imam Tajuddin al-Subki, who Tajuddin al-Subki was the son of the great Imam Taqiyuddin al-Subki. And we mentioned when we were talking about Al-Ibadah, the statement of Imam al-Subki about worship being the ultimate level of submission and surrender to Allah. His son, Tajuddin al-Subki, he wrote a famous book called Tabaqat al-Shafiyyat al-Kubra, the biographies of the great Shafi'i scholars. And among them he mentioned was Abdul Qahir al-Baghdadi, Abu Mansur Al-Qahir, Abdul Qahir al-Baghdadi, who was an Ash'ari Shafi'i scholar who lived in Baghdad, and he was the Imam of Ahl Sunnah in this area of the creed and writing about the different groups of the Muslims in his time. And he died in the year 429. So you get to know his book and you get to know him. So mark that section in your books because I'm going to ask you about it again. So you need to know time and place. You need to get familiar with the globe Islamically and history. So when someone comes, I need you to stop quoting contemporary people because people in our time, they only relate from those who came before them. It is page 1021, right? 1021. And it is the biographical note X9, right? So when you say so-and-so said, I don't care what so-and-so said, from whom did he relate? Because he's only relating. I don't want to know what he's making up. So we don't got to say so-and-so said that. From whom did he relate? So go meet the scholars who have weight. These are people in our time. They are only narrating. They don't make up anything. So they're narrating for those who came before them. Al-isnadu min ad-din walau la isnad laqala man sha ma sha. The chain of narration, how we relate things, is a part of the religion. Without it, anyone can say whatever they want. So when you just say my sheikh or my organization said, that holds no weight whatsoever. From whom did they relate? That's why I'm asking you that. So while I'm going to start with this book, as we go through, you're going to be able to point these things yourself. I'm going to show you the books. I'm going to show you the statements, where you can find them, how you start to relate. And over time, we're going to build our people up. It's going to take time. It's going to be something you're not used to. But alhamdulillah, in time, we're going to be all right. So that is one statement. So when one says, where does it say that Allah exists without a place? Right there in the 5th century by one of the great Shafi'i scholars who was Ash'ari, who was Sufi, Abu Mansur Abdul Qahir al-Baghdadi. In his book Al-Farqu Bayna Firaq, he mentioned that Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, he mentioned the cases that Ahl Sunnah have consensus upon them, and among them he said that it is a consensus, ijma' of Ahl Sunnah, that Allah la yahwihi makan, that he is not encompassed in a location or contained in a place. And he quoted from Sayyidina Ali those statements about Allah existing without a place. So that is, and that was in the 5th century. And his chain of narration is directly from the Salaf. He's only 129 years after the last generation of as-Salaf. So he's relating from those who are relating from the Salaf. Between him and the Salaf is only 1 to 2 narrators, right? That's it. 1 to 2 narrators. And at a high level, 1 maybe. At max, 2 narrators, and he's at the time of the Salaf. His narrations are from the students of the people of the Salaf, of the scholars of the Salaf. And I want you to remember this. He was a leader, an imam in Baghdad in his time. So his teachers were all great scholars, and great scholars related from the great scholars of the Salaf. So it tells you their belief. So if we want to talk about Salafi, this is someone whose chain of narration is Ali. It is high, not nazil, not low. He has a high chain between him and the Salaf. So if anyone knew what the Salaf believed, it would have been men like him. Not someone who came way after the time of the Salaf, whose narration from the Salaf is a long, long chain. No, this one is right there. And he's in that time where he's an imam, he's a leader, he's a scholar of the people of that time. So he's not like anyone else, not a layman at that level of scholarship. And you read there, just as a point about him, he said he was a teacher who used to lecture in 17 subjects to his students. He was a 17 different subjects. And later on, when I start to talk to you about al-ulum al-islamiyya, the Islamic sciences and the types of sciences that those scholars learned and mastered and memorized, you're going to see how you get up to all these sciences that they teach. So we're talking about a high-level scholar. So that's one, Abu Mansur al-Baghdadi. The next book that we mentioned, that the brother mentioned, was Kitab al-Asma wa Sifat, because I asked before the 5th century, right? Right? I'm going to make it a little rough on you. When you quote books, I want you to make sure you went and checked that book, right? So don't quote a book if you didn't go check it yourself. Don't quote, no more cutting and paste. If you didn't check it and you didn't you're sure that that's in the book and you can't show that, say I should go research. We want to train you to be strong, right? We want to train you to be strong in your evidences, right? So there is no, right, when you quote, so you read a book, it's in this book, from where did it relate? If you're saying Abu Hanifa said something, which book of Abu Hanifa? Where at? Show me the attention. Go to the page. Go find it. We're going to get out of this lazy stuff. Cut and paste, internet nonsense. No, go do research, right? No more playing games. So we mentioned Al-Bayhaqi, and he mentioned that book. So Al-Bayhaqi was during the 5th century. So we have another Al-Bayhaqi. He died in the year 458. So he came after Abu Mansur al-Baghdadi, right? His book, Al-Asma wa Sifat, right? Kitab Asma wa Sifat lil-Bayhaqi. It is published by Mu'assasat Risala in Lebanon, right? It is the first edition, published 2013, 1434. Mu'assasat Risala. Risala publishers in Damascus, Syria. Also Beirut, Lebanon, right? On page 506. 506. There you can see it. Page 506. The book, Al-Asma wa Sifat, published by Mu'assasat Risala. He mentions a narration from Imam al-Bayhaqi, right? And I highlighted it for you. You can see it? Yes, right here. I highlighted it. All right? I'll read it to you. Right? Al-Bayhaqi, he said, والذي روي في آخر هذا الحديث إشارة إلى نفي المكان عن الله تعالى. He said, what was related at the end of this hadith, he mentions a hadith before this, is an indication to negating a place from Allah, to negating the place in relation to Allah. He said, وَأَنَّ الْعَبْدِ أَيْنَمَا كَانَ فَهُوَ فِي قُرْبٍ وَالْبُعْدِ مِنَ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى السَّوَاءِ. And that the servant, wherever he may be, in terms of closeness and distance from Allah, it is equal. وَأَنَّهُ ظَاهِرٌ, and that Allah is a ظاهir, meaning his existence is manifest. فَيَسِهُ إِدْرَاكُهُ بِالْأَدِلَّةِ, So it's valid that you would perceive Allah by evidences, right? You look at the creation, you know that Allah exists, right? Al-Batinu, he is the one whose reality cannot be known. فَلَا يَصِحُ إِدْرَاكُهُ بِالْكَوْنِ فِي مَكَانٍ. Since he's al-batin, it is not valid that he would perceive by being in a place. He said, وَاسْتَدَلَّ بَعْضُ أَصْحَابِنَا, and some of our companions, meaning the Ash'ari, he was among the Ash'ari, among the Ash'aris, they use as a proof في نفي المكان عنه, in negating a place about Allah, he's becoming Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam by the statement of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, anta zahiru falaysa fawqaka shay. You are a zahir and there is nothing above you. Wa anta al-batinu falaysa dunaka shay, and there is nothing beneath you. And then look what Al-Bayhaqi said. He said, وَإِذَا لَمْ يَكُنْ فَوْقَهُ شَيْءٍ وَلَا دُنَّهُ شَيْءٍ لَمْ يَكُنْ فِي الْمَكَانِ. Al-Bayhaqi radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he said, وَإِذَا لَمْ يَكُنْ فَوْقَهُ شَيْءٍ, and since there is nothing above him, وَلَا دُنَّهُ شَيْءٍ, and there is nothing beneath him, لَمْ يَكُنْ فِي مَكَانٍ, he cannot be in a place. This is Al-Bayhaqi. And I mentioned it, there is the whole statement. Page 506 in the book Al-Asma wa Sifat for Al-Bayhaqi. And I know all of you don't read Arabic, but this is evidences, these are proofs, these are the books. So no need to say what Imam Amin said. Here is what Al-Bayhaqi said. Here is the book. Here is the page number. Here's where you can find it. Go check. Right? So we have the statement of Al-Bayhaqi and the statement of Abu Mansur al-Baghdadi. Inshallah, if we go to the reader, go back to your reliance of the traveler. I'm going to help you. Inshallah ta'ala. One of those, we're going to rephrase the statement. Can a Muslim be fooled nowadays? Definitely not. Right? Absolutely not. No more fooling the black man. Forget about it. It's done. Gig up, right? Go to, did I say, excuse me, that was 1021, right?
Correct.
All right, go to 1041, page 1041. Biographical note X 103. So on page 1041. You got it?
Yes.
Okay. This is the biographical entry of Imam al-Bayhaqi. So no one say, I don't know. Okay, I'm giving you the books. You'll know that Farq Bayn al-Firaq was written by al-Bayhaqi, right? I mean, by Abu Mansur al-Baghdadi. Let's go learn about Imam al-Bayhaqi. Go ahead.
Bayhaqi is Ahmed ibn al-Hussein ibn Ali Abu Bakr al-Bayhaqi, born in Kasrajan, a village around Bayhaq near Nishapur, Persia, in 384-994.
So 384, I want you to pay a good important too, because 384, that year was the same year of the death of one of the great scholars of hadith, whose name was Abu Sulaiman al-Khattabi, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. And he was the commentator on the Sunan of Abu Dawood, and in his book, Ma'alim al-Sunan, the commentary of Sunan Abu Dawood, Imam al-Khattabi negates a place about Allah in multiple locations. And he negates Allah having a form and Allah being a body. And Al-Bayhaqi, in his book Kitab al-Asma wa Sifat, quotes Abu Sulaiman al-Khattabi a whole lot. A lot. He quotes him, especially in areas negating any jismiyah or kayfiyah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Jismiyah being bodily attributes, kayfiyah or some modality or howness. Go ahead.
A principal Hadith master, Hafiz, and Shafi'i Imam was raised in Bayhaq, but
Now,
traveled.
when we say a principal, al-Bayhaqi, he said he was a principal hadith master, Hafiz. Al-Hafiz in the terminology of hadith, not Hafiz al-Quran. When we say Al-Hafiz in Islamic sciences, that means he was a Hafiz of hadith, which means he memorized over 100,000 hadith with their chains of narration by heart, right? He memorized over 100,000 hadith with their chains of narration from himself back to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he followed a madhab. He was Shafi'i in school. He was a master of hadith knowledge, yet he still followed the madhab. I want you to pay attention to that. Naam, go ahead.
But traveled to gain sacred knowledge to Baghdad, Kufa, Mecca, and other cities.
Which in his time, he was in Naysabur, and that was in Persia, that was a major center of learning. But not only they had this ar-rihla fi talib al-ilm, traveling to seek knowledge. So he went to Baghdad, to Kufa, which is in Iraq, to Mecca, to Hijaz for seeking knowledge, and other cities of the Islamic world. Go ahead.
Zahabi was to say of him, had Bayhaqi wanted to found his own school of jurisprudence and be his mujtahid, he would have been able to, because of the vast range of subjects of which he was a master, and his knowledge of scholarly differences.
And here, what is important, this, al-Dhahabi, he was known as a biographer. And al-Dhahabi's books, when you're talking about knowing about the biography of people, especially narrators, hadith, are the most used and referenced works in the field. So when we're talking about researching men and knowing about their history, especially of scholars of hadith and their levels and their ranks, anyone who's serious about that study is going to study the books of al-Dhahabi in this issue, no doubt about it. In other issues, there are problematic statements with al-Dhahabi. But in this issue, he is a reference. He is a reference. So when al-Dhahabi mentioned about al-Bayhaqi, talking about his level, he said if he wanted to start his own school, he could have did that because he reached the level of ijtihad, right? Mujtahid mutlaq. He was at that level, yet he followed the Shafi'i school. Naam.
Bayhaqi's works amount to nearly 1,000 volumes, treating the sciences of hadith, Quranic exegesis, sacred law, tenets of faith, and other subjects.
So if you look at the books of Imam al-Bayhaqi radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, you're going to find him in knowledge of hadith, in knowledge of the Quran, in knowledge of al-fiqh, in knowledge of al-aqidah, and other subjects as a master, right? Not just anybody. And he's in the time where all of this stuff had to be in your mind, not just in books. These were people of memorization. They had all that in their books, right? So al-Bayhaqi wrote so much in his books. Naam, go ahead.
The Imam of the two sanctuaries, Juwayni, once observed.
Imam al-Juwayni, he lived in the 5th century as well. Imam al-Juwayni, he was known as Imam al-Haramain, the Imam of the two sanctuaries. He was the Sheikh of Imam al-Ghazali. He was Imam al-Ghazali's Sheikh, the original teacher for Imam al-Ghazali, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. Look what al-Juwayni, who was a master in tenets of faith, in usul al-fiqh, to the point that in al-fiqh, to his book, al-Warakat, is used by everybody when you talk about usul al-fiqh. Every group, when they want to study usul al-fiqh, the foundations of Islamic law, they go to the books of al-Juwayni. In his book, al-Warakat. Naam, go ahead. Look what he said about al-Bayhaqi.
Every Shafi'i scholar is indebted to Shafi'i except Bayhaqi, to whom Shafi'i is indebted for his writing so many works strengthening the school, expanding questions on which the Imam had been brief, and supporting his positions. He died in Nushapur in 458, 1066.
Right? So here, Now, Al-Bayhaqi, that statement is significant. That Imam al-Juwayni, and that's not just anybody. That's why I say you got to know scholars. Imam al-Juwayni said about Al-Bayhaqi. So when you want to know someone's level, talk about the people that are on their level, right? Imam al-Juwayni, he was the Sheikh of Al-Ghazali, a master in Usul al-Fiqh, a master in Shafi'i Fiqh. His book, Nihayat al-Matlab fi Dirayat al-Madhab, is huge book, over 24 volumes in Shafi'i Fiqh and explaining different cases. And he explained in that a single volume of Imam al-Muzani, the student of Imam Shafi'i's book, Muqtasar al-Muzani. And he explained that book in all these volumes, Nihayat al-Madhab fi Dirayat al-Madhab, Imam al-Juwayni. So he was an ocean of knowledge. And in Aqidah, his other books in Aqidah are very important references in studying. Juwayni said about Al-Bayhaqi, all of the followers of Imam al-Shafi'i, hundreds of thousands of followers and students, scholars I'm talking about, but not laymen, scholars when I mean followers, scholars. All of them are indebted to al-Shafi'i illa al-Bayhaqi, except al-Bayhaqi. Why? Because al-Shafi'i is indebted to him for the work he done in his school. And if you study just 3 books of al-Bayhaqi that are extremely important in hadith, and especially providing evidence, dalil, for the Shafi'i madhab, you have Sunan al-Sugra, Sunan al-Kubra, and Ma'rifat al-Sunan wal-Athar by al-Bayhaqi. Those 3 books alone for evidences in the Shafi'i school, subhanallah, alone as a proof, as an evidence for the positions of Imam al-Shafi'i and his school. Now, so this is Al-Bayhaqi, and he was a Hafiz. And Al-Bayhaqi, at that level, with all the scholars mentioned about him that we mentioned, and many more, and his books are a reference for anyone who's serious about studying Islamic law and knowing the evidences and proofs from the hadith of the Prophet. They're going to have, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they're going to have recourses to the books of Al-Bayhaqi. But Al-Bayhaqi, what did he say? He said, and I'll go back, we went all through that to make the point that Al-Bayhaqi, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, I'm trying to charge my computer, 1 second. Al-Bayhaqi, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he said, I'll go back to it. He said, وَإِذَا لَمْ يَكُنْ فَوْقَهُ شَيْءٍ وَلَا دُنَّهُ شَيْءٍ لَمْ يَكُنْ فِي الْمَكَانِ. There's nothing above Allah, nothing below Allah, then Allah is not in a place. And he said, وَاسْتَدَلَّ بَعْضُ أَصْحَابِنَا فِي نَفْيِ الْمَكَانِ عَنْهُ بِقَوْلِ النَّبِي صلى الله عليه وسلم أنت الظاهر فليس فوقك شيء وأنت الباطن فليس دونك شيء. And he said he's al-batin فلا يصح إدراكه بالكون في مكان. He is al-batin, the one who is not known by the senses, right? And it is not permissible to perceive, to know Allah by him being in a place. It's not valid. لا يصح. It's not valid. So don't say the Habashi said Allah exists without a place. Say Abu Mansur al-Baghdadi said Allah exists without a place. Say Al-Bayhaqi said Allah exists without a place. That's the authorities in the religion. These are the imams of the religion. Before there was any such thing as any of our modern day groups, no matter who they were, these are the great ulama who we rely upon in transmitting our religion. That's what they said. And their books, and this is one, every day I'm going to bring you another one for this week of those great scholars, inshallah ta'ala, so that you can see great scholars. And now you have transmission correctly. No more cutting and paste, Google searching. No, do real work. Do real research so your points are definitive. So if you're saying we say Allah exists without a place and we are negating Allah's attributes, then so was Al-Bayhaqi, so was Abu Mansur al-Baghdadi, and you don't have connection to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam except through men like them. So who are the fabricators? Who are the ones fabricating? Who are the ones considering the luminaries of this nation as misguided deviants? Who? Ahl Sunnah or you? The people of the Asha'ira wal Maturidiyya or you? That's a question. Here's the books. You say bring your proof. Here's the proof. Here's the dalil. That is the scholars of Ahl Sunnah. And the Prophet ﷺ said about those scholars, Al-ulama warathatul anbiya, that the scholars, they are the inheritors of the prophets. That's what they said. And maybe you could say we're stupid and we can't read, but you can. Here's the books. You read it. That's just two of them. We can go on and on and on, right? And we will. Maybe we don't read properly. Maybe we are bad readers. You can read. You read it. And then you translate it. And you tell me what it means. Because we're going to stick with what they said. So if I'm wrong, that's possible. I'm jahil, ignorant. That's not complicated to say. Free slave, give me to get that for you tomorrow. Remind me, send me a message so I can get the exact narration from the original book. I just got to go. I have it in my mind, but I'm not 100% sure. So I should check, right? Because I want to help you to do that, inshallah. So just send me a message to remind me. I am talking to you, Farouk. La ilaha illallah. Now, I love you. No, seriously, I'm passionate about this because people have been playing games with us far too long, right? You got guys coming. It don't matter what we say Allah is. And the scholars of Islam say something totally different. Who you? Who are you? Men enter. We read about them. We know their ranks. Who are you to contradict those great scholars who were masters of hadith, masters of the sciences of narrating men and checking chains, and you say they were misguided and they didn't know, and you, la ilaha illallah, you're not even worth mentioning, but you're refuting. Knock it off. Let's stop people playing games with us. Them days should be over. And we should be the next step in spreading the truth to our children, right? To our children will be so well equipped that no one will fool them again, inshallah, right? They know the Islamic library like they know the back of their hand. That's how we want them. So when someone comes in, they got to argue. It ain't a debate. Here's the books. Here's the evidence. Here's the statement of the scholars. Here's the verses. Here's the hadith. Here's how the scholars understood those verses and hadiths. Here's what they mentioned in their books. Here's the page number. Here's the edition. Here's the publication. Here's what the scholars said. What are you talking about? Simple. Simple. Right? So now your argument is not with us. Your argument with is the great scholars of this nation, whom the scholars of this nation verified their rank, their scholarship, their expertise, their status. And you come along talking about they didn't know what they're talking about. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. And if I can't trust them, I'm definitely not trusting you. Forget about it. Because you're not even compared. That's like you tell me the brain surgeon is mistaken and he's not doing a good job, but you never studied medicine. I'm going to let you operate on me. Man, get out of here. That's how silly that is. You criticizing the brain surgeon who got 40 years of practice and expertise and study and investigation and actual surgeries under his belt, successful surgeries, and then you come after reading some clips on Google or on the internet talking about he don't know what he's talking about. Let me operate on you. Huh? He got 500 successful surgeries. He did the work. He got articles and journals in the medical journals established by all the experts in the field. They agreed to his qualifications and his expertise and his specialization. And here you come talking about he don't know what he's talking about. Let me do it. Okay. That's what it is. Once you start knowing, that's the equivalent. That's what's being said. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. So we'll pause there. Now you know why I said you need your reliance to the traveler, right? That's not all. We're going to use that book. I'm going to show you how to navigate. I'm going to, inshallah, with the help of Allah, I'm going to expose you to stuff that people have been hiding for us for years. And we have it, so they can't hide it from us no more. We got it. We know all the points. And we're going to bring that thing down from generation to generation to generation. Can't hide it. As we say in the inner city, the gig's up. It's over. Forget about it. All you got to do is listen and learn. I'm going to give it to you. And it ain't going to be just he said. I'm going to quote. I'm going to quote. I'm going to quote. I'm going to show you the books. And then that's why I tell you we need to get our money right. Because these books and all that stuff costs money. Right? It costs money. But it's what's important to you. You buy sneakers, you buy clothes, you buy dresses, you buy all that stuff. Spend your money in learning knowledge and practicing so you get closer to Allah. It's your priorities. You have all the latest sneakers and clothes. Well, have all the important books in your house. It's where your priorities are. That's it. So, I want to one day help you build to save our communities, to wipe that stuff out. I am from the hood. I come from the projects. But alhamdulillah, we're going to do it together, inshallah. Let me take some of your questions quickly. Allah. I'm going to try to take quickly. I want to try to finish this within the next 10, no more than 15 minutes. I'm going to try to stop going past 8 o'clock because your time is valuable and you didn't give me permission to take up all your time. But sometimes I get engrossed and I start going above what I need to. So please forgive me for infringing on your time. May Allah overlook my shortcomings. No, Medina was just as important as Kufa. There were centers of learning because in the time of the Sahaba, you had two main scholars. In Al-Medina, you had Abdullah ibn Umar. In Iraq was Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. So those were fuqaha among the Sahaba. They were jurists among the Sahaba. So the people who would take knowledge, they would go to those areas where those great scholars of the religion. Not all of the companions were taking judgments, fatwa from them. As Suyuti, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he mentioned that out of the Sahaba, there were less than 10 who were sought after for religious judgments, for giving fatwa. And among them was like Abdullah ibn Umar and Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. And Abdullah ibn Umar was in Al-Medina and others. and Abdullah ibn Mas'ud was in Iraq. So people used to travel to those lands to take their knowledge. So those lands became centers of Islamic learning. So for Iraq, you would have where the Hanafi school, Imam Abu Hanifa and his students, where they were at in Iraq. And in Medina, you had Imam Malik, who was Imam Dar al-Hijrah, the Imam of the place of immigration. So that's why you have those differences. But it wasn't that Kufa was more important than Al-Madinah. Both Kufa and Medina, even Mecca and Egypt, they had great ulama, and people would travel to take those narrations. Because in those days, things were by asanid, by chains of narration, right? So a person didn't just quote. He would travel to actually do what is called a talaqi, to take the knowledge from the mouths of teachers, which today is shot. I don't know. Once we get internet, everyone's no longer want to sit. This computer is a veil. Trust me. If you sit at the feet of a teacher, it's going to be much more stronger than on the internet online. Though you can benefit, and this is beneficial, and we got videos, but still, you can listen to me all day, or you can listen to a teacher all day. But being with that teacher, feeling that teacher, getting the breath from that teacher who got the breath from their teachers and from their teachers and from their teachers to the Prophet ﷺ, it has an inward effect that you can't add. The internet's not going to give you that, right? You're going to see stuff when you're with sohbah, when you accompany a person. It's going to be much different from just listening to them on the internet, right? It's easy to think this is, but when you're around someone like a teacher, when you see them and you see what they do, is a big difference. It has a much greater effect, right? So when I look at myself and I see Sheikh Samir, I'm lazy. If I compare myself to being with him and see how he works and see what he does, subhanAllah, I am a lazy dude. I know that only from not listening to him on the internet, for being in this company for years, for traveling with him, sleeping with him, and spending, eating, and in good times and bad times, being around that and seeing steadfastness, istiqamah in every situation. And I look at myself, how I get lazy, how I have doubts, and how I go through, and I watch this man like this, nonstop. I'll give you an example of that quickly. One time, Sheikh Samir, Hafidhullah, we were doing a book. I forget which book we were doing, a book in Tasawwuf, I think it was. And he had the flu, like he was out. And we had to teach that book he taught for 3 days. Usually when the Sheikh is teaching, I'm his reader. Like she reads, I read for the Sheikh, usually, right? When we're teaching. He's doing the teaching, I'm doing the reading. So we had 3 days to read, right? Each day was about 10 to 12 hours. So it's like a marathon. The Sheikh is teaching. The first day, he's sick. You could tell he's like real, slow and can't really do much, but he's going. By the end of that night, his fever was super high. He was sweating, chills. We like, Sheikh, we can cancel. He said, absolutely not. He taught for 3 days, around 12 hours a day. He was passing out in the middle of the classes. He would just pass out, and everyone is sitting there waiting. 15 minutes, he'd come back and continue to teach, right? We called a doctor for him. The doctor said, I don't even know how he's still up. And the doctor's like, you got to immediately take him to the hospital. And Sheikh was like, no, just, give me some aspirin or some antibiotic because it was a doctor, he prescribed it, and I'll be okay. The whole time the sheikh was in that state, he finished the book, and everyone was sitting like, oh my. And we were concerned because through that, he would just, boom, like pass out. And then he'd come back, and we were like, Sheikh, we can stop. He's like, no, go, read. And we finished. And when the book was finished, he got well. I said, SubhanAllah. As if the book and teaching was the medicine. Soon as we finished, he was okay. He, and the doctor stayed. He was so amazed because he's like, I cannot leave because he's very sick. He shouldn't be doing this. And when the class was over, the doctor stayed and came. He said to me, this one is amazing. I've never seen nothing like this. This is something with my own eyes. And others were there and witnessed. And that doctor, he became like diligent following the sheikh. Every time the sheikh would come around in his area, he would come because he was like, this person is phenomenal. And Sheikh told us about his sheikh, which just happens to be his father-in-law. He said during one Ramadan, he was old. And he said, I told him, because the sheikh is a doctor, right? He's a doctor himself, Sheikh Samir. That's why we say Dr. Samir. He's a real doctor. He has his own clinic in Damascus, right? He said that it was during Ramadan, his sheikh was old. So he told the sheikh, please, his father-in-law as well. He said, please do not fast. You cannot do it. And he pushed the sheikh. And the sheikh said, okay, my son-in-law, my student, he's doctor, mashallah, I won't fast. He said, and during Ramadan, the first couple days, Sheikh Muhammad, rahimahullah, he got sick, real sick, bad. And then the sheikh said, I must fast. He was sick. He was not fasting and he got sick. The sheikh said, and he was in his upper age, late 70s, close to 80 something. He said, I must fast. Sheikh Samir said he started fasting. Then when he started fasting, he immediately recovered. He said, that day, I realized my medicine don't mean nothing. What he has is much better than medicine. He said, I never again advised him towards health issues. I was so ashamed of myself. He started fasting and he got well. When he wasn't fasting, he got sick. SubhanAllah. This is the reality of this deen. This ain't something I'm talking about from reading a book. This is something that you experience, that you sit. And I could go on and on and on. Just stories of the years of companionship with some of these teachers and seeing some amazing things. So it becomes real. Even if I never experienced it myself, I seen it. I watched with my own eyes, heard with my own ears, felt with my own heart, which is bigger than seeing and hearing. When the heart catches it, that's a whole nother story. May Allah make it easy. I'm sorry. I said I got one question because I got 4 minutes. I'm sorry for going so, but Yeah, we're going to do that. We'll do it. We'll slowly start putting this together. We're going to do that. And it'll be in the resources section online as well. We're getting ready. That's why I asked you to get the book. I don't tell you to get books just for nothing. I want you to be armed so that you can defend, first learn, spread, and defend your deen. Because you have two things. You got to learn it. You got to practice it and spread it. And you got to defend it from misguidance because you got to convey it to the next generation. So you can, and we're getting in a time where people are corrupting the religion. What is your question? I'll take that last one. Abu Muwadda. Could you go back to his question, because I don't want to take up more of their time. I got 3 minutes, I think. If we don't ask access to one of the original kutub, such as Kitab al-Fiqh al-Absat, but we have access to such a great kitab, such as Sharh of Abu al-Muntaha al-Maghnisawi, in which he did on Fiqh, in which he quotes. I mean, it's sufficient for you, but that's not an evidence for someone else, right? It's sufficient for you. You trust him, mashallah, you good. From where, but you want to get to original sources. Train yourself to get back to, that doesn't negate, right? That doesn't negate the scholarship of a scholar. But you want to get to original sources. You want to be in the habit of actually getting close to reality as you can. And the closest you can get to reality is going back to original sources. In real scholarship, no one's going to respect you quoting from someone else who's not quoting, without original sources. You could say, Sheikh Abdul Muntaha mentioned in his commentary, and you can attribute that to him. When you attribute it to him, to Abu Hanifa, then you need to be sure that he quoted Abu Hanifa correctly. He could have made a mistake. It's possible. But when you're using it as a proof, that in itself is not a proof of the statement of Abu Hanifa, because the book of Abu Hanifa is available. Now, if that was the only source, you could say it was mentioned in this book, from this book of Abu Hanifa, but we couldn't find the original text. That's one thing. Then you need supporting evidence to support that claim. I'm talking about how you research, right? We're talking about researching. Because if you're doing inadequate research, and you may not be in your ability, but we want to train ourselves to develop, right? I'm asking you to be a scholar. I'm asking you to learn so that you can teach and convey with confidence, right? And some of us need to go to learning scholarly levels. We have to produce scholarly people. You know, we have this idea of, I want to, you know, we got scholars. But if you study their research, it's deficient. It's not scholarly at all, right? And that doesn't put them down. We need to train ourselves. Even my work, I told you, it's not scholarly. We need more. Not everybody's going to do that. But when you know for sure that we do proper research, you can have more confidence in what you're being told, right? Instead of someone just, like, for instance, you know, one of my biggest things with the Wahhabis, and forget just their belief, right? Is they're fabricating texts. They're famous for that. Half quoting, misquoting, leaving out, deleting, lying, fabrication. They're famous for that, right? Not telling the truth, not being honest. They're famous for that. In fact, scholars have wrote books on their messing with the text. Famous for it. That's why you need original sources. So I'm not saying don't use what you have. Use what you have. That's what you have. But understand there's levels. Remember earlier we talked about Iman, Ilm, Iman earlier in the scattered thoughts, right? We spoke about, Imam Ghazali talked about Al-Iman, faith. Then he talked about Al-Ilm, knowledge. Then he talked about Al-Dhawq, experience. There's levels to this. So we want to go infamous, okay, free slave. They're infamous for that, infamous for that, right? Good. May Allah reward you. So there's levels. This ain't about, we're trying to prepare generations. Forget about us, right? Don't give our children sloppy work. Make them step it up, right? So they can protect and convey this deen. So because we got other issues, if we confusing the deen, that's our weapon to save ourselves. If we don't do that, well, we in trouble. Let's get in the habit, and it ain't about ego. If you don't do it, fine, I can't do it. Yo, let's get someone, let's train someone, let's support someone so they get to do it, right? Stop being selfish. Listen, I don't have the ability. I'm not that intelligent. Fine, let's go find a kid that's intelligent, that's smart, right? And let's support him and let's train him so he can do it. And then he can teach us, right? I have students that'll blow me out the water. I taught them, but they will blow me out the water, right? But I taught them. I'm the one that trained them. But they went on to another level, right? To me, I rely on them. Today, I rely on them. If I ever get stuck, yo, I need you to do this, you do this, you do this. They're better researchers than me. They're better in Arabic than me. They're quick-minded. They're analytical in their thoughts. They're very, what they call that? They're critical thinkers. And they're young. And they was raised in my house. But that's what you're supposed to do. And they still call me Sheikh. And they're really my Sheikh. But they say Sheikh Amin, Sheikhuna, Sayyidi. Because I raised them. They're my kids. Not my blood children, but I raised them. Their parents had them raised with me. I raised them like a father. And they're learning. So it could happen. We could do it, right? So I got them. I really don't need much. I don't even call my teachers because I have them. So I don't bother Sheikh Sammy. I call him to see how he's doing. That's it. As far as researching and knowledge, I got them. Why do I need to bother my sheikh who's old and he needs to relax? He don't need me bugging him with a bunch of questions when I got these young kids who are amazing in their research style and ability. Why? That's what we trained them for, so they could do the job, right? That's how it's supposed to work. Not I'm always on top. You want to make someone better than you. MashaAllah. That's how. You want the next generation to be better than us. Not ego, I want to always be in charge. No, I want to sit down and watch the next generation develop. That's how we got to be. May Allah reward us all. I'm sorry, I went over 5 minutes. I have to stop. May Allah reward you. May Allah make you winners in this world and in the hereafter. Wa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.